Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the TV Exiles. This week we'll be looking at episode 5 of the final season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, entitled Gone with a Trace. As usual, joining me for this review is fellow Star Wars enthusiast Chris.
Hey.
Hey. Alright, let's get into this. Let's start with overall thoughts. What do you think of this episode?
I thought it was pretty interesting with respect to Ahsoka, in that it's been 8 years since we've seen her, and really that was the major cliffhanger that we were left on all those years ago, so it was nice to finally see her again. But I kind of wanted a little bit more, but I'm sure that's coming in the next episodes. How about you?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. This was kind of a good pickup. I guess I didn't even realize it's been 8 years since we last saw her, because season 6 didn't have any of her in it. But yeah, this is kind of just picking up where she left off. She's trying to find her own footing, and the episode did fine with it. It still kind of leaves you wondering how they're going to end this season, as this doesn't seem like it was kind of going anywhere. But it's really good to see her back and to hear Ahsoka's voice again, either way.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
What did you think of the opening crawl message, which is, if there's no path before you, create your own? And did that apply to the story?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, she's left the Jedi Order now, and she has to create her own path. I don't think there's anything very mythological or deep about it. But yeah, I mean, it reflects the story fairly enough.
So yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's a very straightforward message. Is she does not have a path in front of her. She's no longer part of the Jedi Order. So now she's forced to kind of take up her own path and figure out where she belongs in a world where she's never been a part of. So, it's nothing deep, but it's exactly where she's at. But she does meet a couple of new characters, namely Trace, who's a mechanic she runs into, and then later her sister, Rafa. What do you think of those two?
Not really interesting characters for me, to be honest with you. I'm basically here in this season to see the characters that I remember and love. In the last episodes, we got to see Echo, Rex, we got to see Anakin, Mace, Obi-Wan. I'm not really here for these new characters. What I would say is that we could eventually see these people again in perhaps a movie or a series or anything. So these might eventually end up being important characters in Ahsoka's life. So I suppose it's too early to judge, but if I'm just taking this episode in isolation, I'm not really interested in them. For this arc, it's all about Ahsoka.
Yeah, the characters were fine. Trace, just kind of the way she spoke, kind of reminded me of an NPC from a video game. Her delivery was kind of like, "Oh yeah, I've got the next mission for you. Like, come with me." And it was fine. Like you said, with this being the last season, I kind of figured it'd be a little bit more focused on moving forward to the end. I'm not counting out this arc might end up being something really good. This is just kind of the setup. But again, I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more, breakneck pace. We're moving towards the Order 66, and this is kind of where we're going. There was nothing that offended me about it, other than the fight with the thug Pintu and his two thugs.
Don't get me started.
I kind of felt that it was a little cartoony. I mean, I know this is a cartoon, but we've come to expect some really great action from this show, and especially from Ahsoka. And I kind of felt this was a little bit too goofy.
The fight with Pintu's thugs was pretty poor, in my opinion. First of all, it doesn't really feel like Ahsoka's fighting style. She often ends Mandalorians and battle droids and all these other characters with high fighting skills a lot easier. I mean, the thug, she dealt with the thug pretty easily, but it took her like 10 hits to get rid of him, where she could get rid of a Mandalorian or a battle droid in 1 or 2 hits. Like, I don't know if that was intentional to hide the fact that she's a Jedi, because we did see at one point that she was hiding the fact that she was using her Force powers, but still it felt a bit overkill and a little kung fu-y, and I'm not sure that matches her fighting style. And the way it ended as well with the groin kick, it just felt very cheap.
Yeah, it was very childish. The way I say it is kind of playing with her food, which she probably could have taken them out a lot faster.
Great analogy.
Maybe she wasn't really. You see it in some real world fighters. Like Anderson Silva is a fantastic fighter, but he plays with his food too much, and it gets him in trouble because he knows he's better than them. But sometimes he lets it go longer than he should. And I think maybe they were doing a little bit of that, of this show off, like. I am very skilled, but she wasn't dispatching them so quick that they're like, wow, like there's something super impressive about her. It's like, hey, she can fight.
Yeah, perhaps she was showing off a bit. I think she was showing off a bit to Trace, with
but
her
again, ending it with that groin kick was that's not that's not very Clone Wars, but it's very definitely not Ahsoka, because she's not this kind of person that's going to go for that kind of attack.
Yeah, the whole fight felt a bit strange. Other than that, I thought the rest of the episode was pretty good. I mean, the way they were chasing after this robot gone haywire, I thought was pretty interesting, and how she was trying to avoid using her Force powers. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah,
it was a fun action scene through the end, and it was nice seeing her use her powers, and then seeing the little Twi'lek kid actually see her and get excited, because they don't see Jedi down there. Which actually does bring me to another point on the episode. It is kind of cool to see the view of the people who live below the surface on what the Jedi are, and are they heroes or are they villains? Are they warmongers? The idea is very different in the sub levels of Coruscant than they are on the surface. They're almost looked at more like villains. I mean, almost more like politicians, where we, no matter what side we're on, it's like we don't trust them. We think that they've got other plans. And we as viewers have always seen the Jedi as the good guys. But I think one of the points of the Clone Wars has always been that the Jedi lost their way. And the rest of the universe, the galaxy sees it, and the rest of the people on Coruscant see it. And the only people that don't see that are the Jedi, that they're no longer who they were meant to be.
Yeah, I think that those are great points, and definitely the most interesting part of the episode for me.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, we're almost halfway done. Next episode will be halfway done with the season. Are you still excited? Are you still happy with how the season's going?
Yeah, I mean, this was the least interesting episode for me. I expected a lot more, knowing that it was going to be about Ahsoka, but we'll wait till the next one. I'm sure it'll pick back up. Nothing has disappointed me, really. So, yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It was different than I expected, but not necessarily a letdown by any means. Just different. I kind of thought it would be something a little bit different, but I'm still excited moving forward. Can't wait to hit the end. And that will do it for this week's episode. We'll be back next week with episode 6. Chris, go ahead and tell listeners where they can find you online.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Vinaldo7.
And you can find me on Twitter at _meatball_84. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, stay exiled.